Once upon a time, the CEO of a large corporation took a vacation on doctor's orders to a small village on the coast of Mexico. Unable to sleep after an urgent call from the office on his first morning away, he walked out to the pier to clear his mind. A small boat with a lone fisherman had just docked, and inside the boat were several large yellowfish tuna. The CEO complimented the fisherman on the quality of his catch. "How long did it take you to bring in all of those fish?" he asked. "Only a short while," the fisherman said. "Then why don't you stay out a little longer and catch even more fish?" the puzzled CEO asked. "Because I have more than enough here to support my family and give a few to my friends." But what do you do with the rest of your time?" As the man in the boat unloaded the fish into a basket, he looked up and smiled. "Oh, I sleep late, fish a little, play with my children. I take a siesta with my wife and stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my friends. I have a full and busy life." The CEO laughed and stood tall. "Well, sir, I have an MBA from Harvard, and I think I can be of help to you. You should spend more time fishing, and with the proceeds, you could buy yourself a bigger boat. In no time, you could buy several boats, and eventually you could own an entire fleet. And instead of selling your catch to a middleman, you could sell directly to consumers and eventually open up your own cannery. You could control the product, the processing, and the distribution. Now, of course, you would need to leave this little village behind and move to a big city where you would run your expanding enterprise with even a bigger management team." The skeptical fisherman then interrupted him. "But how long will all of that take?" 15 to 20 years, 25 tops," the CEO promised. "And what then?" With a sparkle in his eyes, the CEO said, "See, now that's the best part. When the time is right, you could sell your company to the public and become very rich. You would make millions." "Millions? And then what?" the fisherman asked. "Well, then you would retire and move to a small coastal fishing village where you would sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take a siesta with your wife, and stroll to the village in the evening where you could sip wine and play your guitar with your friends." How easily we can forget that paradise can be found in the here and now, and that to while away the hours isn't necessarily the same thing as wasting time. As we shift into summer, when the clock seems to move at a slower pace, we have a fresh invitation to give thought to what really matters, a time to look for and hopefully celebrate that which brings deep meaning and joy to our lives. For some, that of course involves seeking after fortune and working hard to achieve important goals. There's much to be said for the intense feeling of accomplishment that comes from striving toward and reaching some great aim. Satisfaction of this sort can be particularly sweet. But there is also much to be said, and maybe even more, about the simple pleasures that come from savoring one's life, from recognizing along life's way the moments that make up everything we may ever know of paradise, right here and right now, by taking time to cease from all of our doing and to simply be, so that we might awake to ourselves and to the life within that's longing to be lived. There is an art to living this way. An art to slowing down the beat of our hearts and stilling the stirrings of our minds. An art to regularly setting aside time out of time when we rest from our labors and can begin to see again the larger arc of our lives and our heart's deepest desires. I've long admired Judaism's deep commitment to honoring the Sabbath, of taking time off from all of life's routine demands. A day when all work, all effort is strictly forbidden. Keeping the Sabbath, of course, has long defined the Jewish people. You may remember that Jesus often got himself into a heap of trouble by healing people on the Sabbath. Though he upset his critics by challenging their traditional notions, Christianity after him hasn't hesitated from imposing stiff restrictions at times on what could and couldn't be done on Sundays. Some of us grew up with these restrictions as the law of the land. As a kid living in Texas, I remember the odd blue laws, as they were called, which dictated that you could buy nails on Sunday, but not a hammer, because the hammer would be working. Toronto had some strange laws too. The Sabbath and public order bylaws came into effect here in the late 19th century, when citizens groups pushed for new ways the government might help to uphold public morality. Toronto police were responsible for licensing and regulating dance halls, theaters, pool halls, and eventually movie houses. They were also charged with making sure that on Sundays, the streetcars did not run, that alcohol was not sold or consumed, and that there definitely wasn't any sledding or playing ball in High Park. There was a serious class difference in how these laws were enforced. Someone once observed that what was forbidden came perilously close to any historian's description of what regular working class people actually did for fun back then. While streetcars sat parked in their stations, chauffeured carriages could be seen out and about town on Sundays. And while baseball was forbidden, golf was allowed, as it was clearly not, according to court records from the time, the sort of unseemly games spelled out in the bylaws. And while it was illegal to buy or consume alcohol on Sundays, it was common to be served a drink in the parlors and clubs of the wealthy. As a woman convicted of drunkenness at the time stated to the judge, "The only difference between me and Lady Flaherty in Rosedale is that I don't have a powdered flunky to carry me up to bed when I get drunk." Now, as funny and antiquated as some of this might sound, the practice of keeping Sabbath, even in our own day, can sometimes go to intriguing extremes. When I have visited people in hospital at Mount Sinai or been to other major Jewish institutions, I've been struck by the presence of a Sabbath elevator, an elevator that from sundown on Friday until sundown on Saturday runs automatically between the floors so that no observant Jew inadvertently breaks the Sabbath by calling the elevator. Ingenious. But what I find interesting and a bit frustrating about all of this, the elevator workaround, the misguided city bylaws, the attacks on Jesus for breaking the Sabbath, is that it all seems to have profoundly missed the point by focusing in on the letter of the law rather than the spirit. Jewish theologian Abraham Joshua Heschel spoke of the Sabbath as a great cathedral in the architecture of time. He noted the correspondence in Latin between the word for temple, templar, and for time, tempus. The Sabbath, he said, is a temple made of time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Do you ever make that sort of turn? Do you set aside a day a week, or an hour a day, or a moment in an hour to simply rest and be? Do you take time in a committed, consistent, intentional way to honor yourself and your connection to the life that is within you? I suspect most of us don't, at least not regularly. As much as I try in as central a spiritual practice as this is for me, I'll confess that on Mondays, when my own Sabbath day rolls around, I sometimes still struggle to honor it as a day for being and not doing. That's because it's not easy. And in our ever-connected world, when so much competes for our attention, it's not exactly getting easier. But the truth is that the busyness of modern life means that we need all the more to pull away to that temple made of time. I'm reminded of Gandhi, who once said, "I have so much to accomplish today that I must meditate 2 hours instead of 1. It can be hard to draw on such wisdom when we're drowning in the details of our to-do list. And to be clear, I'm not only speaking here to those of us who are still working. The retired folks in this congregation are easily some of the busiest people I have ever known. Now, being busy isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we do need some balance and perspective. It's not easy to live with the knowledge that we will never have enough time on this earth to do all that we might like. And while great meaning can be and hopefully is found in those things to which we devote our days, we would do well to carve out the time for rest and reflection that ensures our spirits are replenished and that helps us to gauge whether we are investing our lives in accord with our deepest values. There's a price to be paid for not taking this time. Thomas Merton, the Trappist monk, named the excessive demands that distract us from our core commitments as, quote, a pervasive form of contemporary violence. He said that to allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone in everything, is to succumb to violence. Our frenzied activity destroys the fruitfulness of our own work, he wrote, because it kills the root of inner wisdom, which makes our work meaningful and useful to ourselves and to the world. What I find intriguing is that brain studies now back up what Merton said over half a century ago. Without time to daydream and to let our minds wander where they will, we inhibit our own creativity. When we think we're getting ahead by doing 10 things at once, we're actually weakening our performance of everything that we're trying to do. When we chronically overwork or overextend ourselves, we pretty quickly reach a point of diminishing returns. While these may sound like secular reasons for keeping Sabbath, I believe they are deeply spiritual reasons as well. In his book, Sabbath, Restoring the Sacred Rhythm of Rest, Wayne Muller writes, I use the word Sabbath to represent a specific practice as a larger metaphor, a starting point to invoke a conversation about the forgotten necessity of rest. Sabbath time is time off the wheel, time when we take our hands from the plow while we drink, if only for a few moments, from the fountain of rest and of delight. But he points out that Sabbath is more than the absence of work. It is not just a day off when we catch up on television or errands. It is the presence of something that arises when we consecrate a period of time to listen to what most deeply we find beautiful, nourishing, or true. It is time concentrated with our attention, consecrated with our mindfulness, our honoring of those quiet forces of grace or spirit that sustain and heal us. Yet as compelling as this temple made of time can be, it's worth asking what keeps us from visiting it more often, what holds us back from making it a more central aspect of our lives. I believe a clue can be found in the first entry in the best-selling book Journal of Solitude by the late Unitarian poet May Sarton. The first entry, dated September 15th, says this: I am here alone for the first time in weeks to take up my real life again at last. That's what is strange, that friends, even passionate love, are not my real life unless there is time alone in which to explore and to discover what is happening or has happened. Without the interruptions, nourishing and maddening, this life would become arid. Yet I taste it fully only when I am alone here and the house and I resume old conversations. The ambiance here is order and beauty. This is what frightens me when I am first alone again. I feel inadequate. I have made an open place, a place for meditation. What if I cannot find myself inside it? In this journal, I hope to break through into the rough, rocky depths of life. There is violence there and anger never resolved, and my need to be alone is balanced against my fear of what will happen when suddenly I enter the huge, empty silence. I think what Sarton points to so powerfully is that when we slow down, it's not only rest we may find. As anyone who has ever sat meditation knows, when we still our minds, Just about everything that has ever troubled us has a way of bubbling up to the surface. Hard questions and old hurts, grief and ambiguity, petty resentments, and sometimes unspeakable pain. Worked on and worked through, though, this is the blessed bedrock stuff of spiritual growth. A notion captured so well in Susan Brown's beautiful poem, Buddha's Dogs. She writes, I'm at a day-long meditation retreat, 8 hours of watching my mind with my mind, and I already fell asleep twice and nearly fell out of my chair, and it's not even noon yet. In the morning session, I learned to count my thoughts, 10 in 1 minute, and the longest was to leave and go on a shopping trip, then find an outdoor cafe and order a glass of wine, smoked trout with roasted potatoes and baby carrots and a bowl of gazpacho. But I stayed and learned to name my thoughts. So far, they are wanting, 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 judgment, sadness. Don't identify with your thoughts, the teacher says. You are not your personality, not your ego. Then he bangs the gong for lunch. Whoever, whatever I am, is given instruction in the walking meditation and the eating meditation, and walks outside with the other meditators as we wobble along the lake like the night of the living dead. I meditate slowly, falling over a few times because I kept my foot in the air too long. Towards a bench, I sit slowly down and slowly eat my sandwich, noticing the bread, sourdough, noticing the taste, tuna, sourdough, noticing the smell, sourdough, tuna. Thanking the sourdough, the tuna, the ocean, the boat, the fisherman, the field, the grain, the farmer, the plastic wrap that kept this food fresh for this body made of food and desire, and the hope of getting through the rest of this day without dying of boredom. Sun, then cloud, then sun. I notice a maple leaf on my sandwich. It seems awfully large. Slowly brushing it away, I feel so sad I can hardly stand it. So I name my thoughts. They are sadness about my mother, judgment about my father, wanting the child I never had. I notice I have been chasing the same thoughts, like dogs around the same park, most of my life. I notice the leaf tumbling gold to the grass. The gong sounds, and back in the hall, I decide to try lying down meditation and let myself sleep. The Buddha in my dream is me, surrounded by dogs wagging their tails, licking my hands. I wake up for the forgiveness meditation, the teacher saying, never put anyone out of your heart. And the heart opens and knows it won't last and will have to open again and again, chasing those dogs around and around in the sun, then cloud, then sun. Friends, each week, every day, we are offered an invitation to enter into the vast and sometimes daunting Sabbath silence from which our lives might more powerfully speak. This summer, let us learn to set aside some space to keep busyness at bay by entering into that life-giving temple of time, where we might marvel at the world of creation and be renewed to play our part in the creation of the world. Let us learn to simply savor a summer day as the wondrous gift that it is, that we might ask and that we might know what it is, after all, that we plan to do with our one wild and precious life. So be it.